Good morning, everyone. Hello, Adobe Live audience all over the world. My name is Terry White, Worldwide Design and Photography Evangelist for Adobe, and it's my pleasure to be streaming to you live on this Monday morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you're located in the world. For me, it's afternoon, but I know a lot of folks are watching from all over, so welcome everybody. I see Michelle, Victoria, is that Odie? Richard, Sam Peterson, welcome everyone, and all people, even a few people over on YouTube, which you guys should be headed over to Behance where all the action really happens. Welcome Ralph, happy Monday. And today we're going to be continuing the photography daily challenge, daily creative challenge. Now in the past, I've done one of these before and it was all about Photoshop. This time we're doing Lightroom and Photoshop, but today is something a little different. We're going to be doing Photoshop because I'll explain why. But anyway, for those of you who are new or this is your first time, welcome everybody. If you are watching this on the replay, well, thanks for watching the replay. Thanks for joining us. You can join us live every morning from here till Friday. Friday it ends at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Here in the United States, but wherever you are in the world, it will automatically convert your time. To your time zone. So with that said, if this is your first time watching, I'll just do the quick, how do you get into the challenge? Let me switch over to my computer. I've got the Daily Creative Challenge page up for Photoshop. So the first thing you would do if you're brand new is you would head over to use your browser, head over to behance.net/challenge/Photoshop. That will get you to the challenge page. From there, you will just click your name, of course, if you're logged in, and then sign up for the challenge. Each day, you'll receive a different challenge. So we're already on week 2. You can join the community chat, which we're going to talk about, watch your daily live stream, which you're doing right now, whether it's live or replay for you. And then finally, you're going to share your work that you've done for the challenge. So these are the challenges we've done so far. So last Tuesday, we did photo editing, which is just more of an import into Lightroom and then edit your photo. We did the crop tool, geometry, black and white photo. And today we're going to be working with the type tool or the text tool. So that's today's challenge. Now, of course, for those of you who are already in the challenge and in the community, you know that you can get most of the action over on Discord. So it's great that you're watching this on Behance and doing the chat live with me today. But after the stream is over, where do you go? So head over to Discord. You can download this app for your mobile devices or your desktop and then join us there. So this is what it looks like. I'm going to pop over to Discord right now. And there's some challenges already here from last week, the black and white. And this one I'm going to start with. And I'm just going to make a note, and it could be my display, but just watch the shadows, because it's like a lot of dark spots that are losing some of the detail. This was an upright conversion or geometry conversion. Here's a black and white conversion from my sample image, a nice portrait black and white. Love that one. Here's another black and white conversion from Friday. See how the shadow detail came out here versus that? So that's what I'm talking about. Don't lose your shadow detail. Great. Someone did the upright and the black and white conversion. Don't forget about that. Again, keeping that shadow detail intact while you make your black and white conversion is ever important. Great entries so far into the challenge. All right, so these are all good, and again, I will go back. Ooh, I kind of like that one. I'll go back and mark some of my favorites, but you guys are doing a great job with the challenges. I love the portraits. I'm a portrait guy, so portraits always make me happy, but here's some of the ones before. Now, this one looks like a photo composite / something. I can tell, so just be aware of this side of the building. I know that it looks like the sky is encroaching on it, and maybe the part of the building's gone away, but I don't know. Maybe because I knew what it was before. But good. Great portraits, great landscapes, great architectural stuff, great travel stuff. Ooh, that's a good one too. So you guys are doing a fantastic job with your challenges. I've also marked some favorites over on Behance. Putting them in a mood board. I'm keeping them here and keeping some of my favorites located there. So just you'll upload your content with the hashtag PS Daily Challenge, and that way I can find them and I can accumulate my favorites in my mood board. All right, so with that said, what is today's challenge? So today's challenge is using the type tool. And I gave you guys a sample image to work with. And like I said, this is a photography challenge, so typically we're showing how to do things in Lightroom and Photoshop. But this is one of those where I can't show you how to do this in Lightroom because Lightroom doesn't have a type tool. Neither Lightroom Classic nor Lightroom Cloud-based or Lightroom have a text tool or type tool. So this is one of those prime examples of when you need to go to Photoshop, because if you want to add text to your image, it's not impossible, but it's near impossible doing that in Lightroom. You can do it via the slideshow module, and you can do it the print module, kinda with an identity plate. But again, that's not ideal. That's not the way to do it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this image. This is a sample image that we're going to work with, but we're going to still do the same workflow that we would do with any photo. So before I head to Photoshop to do type, let's get the image ready first. Let's get the image looking the way it should look. So as usual, we would do our lens correction. So enable profile lens correction. It figured out what camera shot that and applied the lens correction to it. And then I always like to do an auto tone just to see what I get. Darken those shadows a little bit darker than I need them to be. So I'm just going to brighten that area up just a little bit by dragging right on the histogram, which will drag the black slider. Now that I've done that, I might add a little dehaze to this image because it was taken out on a sunny, hazy day. So just a slight amount of dehaze to that. And now I'm ready to head over to Photoshop. Now, keep in mind too, there's a couple these are actual dust spots on the sensor, on the lens. So like those watermarks or those dust marks, that was from the lens. That's not actually in the shot itself. So every shot I took that day, these spots are there, so you might want to get those out. Now you could do that right in Lightroom, non-destructively. Just clicking your spot removal tool. That's what it was originally designed to do. And taking care of these little spots that someone will notice, and you'll be like, what? There were spots in my image? Yeah, there were spots in your image. So that might be one of the first things you'll do before heading to Photoshop. Get your image nice and clean, get it cropped, get it looking the way you want. Then you can head over and start working with type. All right, so with that said, how do I get to work on this with Photoshop? As I said before, you can always Command E on Mac for edit in Photoshop, Control E on Windows, or if you right click, you can edit in Photoshop. That will, because this is a raw file, it's going to make a copy anyway, but the one you have is a JPEG, so it's going to ask you, if it's in Lightroom, do you want to make a copy first? And then it will take it over, it will, you choose whether or not you want to copy or work on the original, and then it will take it over to Photoshop. So mine's going to take a few extra seconds because it has to make that copy first, and then we'll head over to Photoshop where I don't see my image. So let's try it one more time. There we go. Now I see my image. All right, so now I'm in Photoshop, and now I can do anything. I can continue working on the image. I could use, for example, if I wanted to use the spot healing tool, we're going to have a whole lesson on removing distractions. But for example, if I didn't want some of the people in my image, I could use the patch tool. I could use the spot removal tool. I could start removing things from the image that I didn't want. So that is always an option. If you wanted your image people free, this is where you would most likely do it. You do it inside Photoshop. But today's lesson is not that. Today's lesson is about type. So I'm going to grab my type tool. If you don't see it on the panel, just hit the letter T. That'll take you over to the text tool, type tool. And then I'm just going to come up here right at the top of the pyramid, right over to the right of it a little bit, and just click. And that will put down some sample text in whatever font I use last. So I'm going to make 2 of these. I'm going to type the word ancient. All right, that's the first one. And then I'm just going to, and now you don't have to click the check mark anymore. You don't have to enter key. Just click away. and that will commit. So that was introduced last year. You don't have to hit the commit button. You don't have to hit enter. You can just click away, and that will automatically commit. All right, so the next one I'm gonna just put another text in. So ancient Egypt, obviously. And once again, click away to put that down or to lock it down. Now that gave me two layers. That gave me the ancient layer and the Egypt layer. You can rearrange those, put them in any order you want. And when one is selected and you're on your move tool, you can move it around. You can do whatever you want to do with it. Now, while I do like the ancient font, and I don't like the Egypt font. So in other words, I like the ancient in whatever font that is, but we're going to show how to change fonts. So I'm going to select my Egypt layer. And first thing is I want Egypt really big. But before I get it really big, I want it to be in the right font. Because a lot of times if you pick the font first, then do the size, or no, if you do the size first and then pick the font, sometimes that font is bigger or smaller, so you end up resizing it again anyway. So it's a lot of times it's just easier to pick the font first, then worry about the size of the type. All right, so now in traditional applications, if you wanted to change the font, you probably would go back to the type tool, double click on the word Egypt to highlight it, and then change it to whatever you want. And yes, that does work. I could change it to something else, for example. However, that workflow is not necessary in newer versions of Photoshop. So instead of me having to, let's say I was on the move tool before, I was moving it around. Instead of me having to go back to the type tool, as long as that layer is selected, and I'm sorry, instead of me having to select it with the type tool, as long as that layer is selected and I go back to the type tool, I have access to all my fonts and I don't have to select it first. I can just preview and see what that's going to look like. Now I have enabled or did the filter for just show me the Adobe font. So whichever one I pick, if you wanted to make yours exactly the same, you'd be able to sync that same font. And you would get that font by clicking on more from Adobe Font. So if you click that, that'll show you the ability to pick more fonts. So I don't know what I want yet. I won't know it till I see it. Ooh, I kind of like that lighter type, but we're gonna do something else. I need it to be a little thicker. I kind of like that Freight Sans Pro. That was actually kind of cool too. A little Fresno. So I'm just hovering. I don't have a particular font in mind. I'll know it when I see it. Let me scroll the list a little bit. So many choices, so little time. I think I'm going to be going back up the list. I'm not, oh wait, hang on. It's getting better now. I was going to say, I'm not liking any of these. All right, hang on. That I could live with. Figures, I like Proxima Nova, that's why. Okay, let's go with Railway. So I'm going to go with Railway, and if the font has more styles, then you can go to the style and choose thin, light, extra light, all the way up to heavy. So I'm going to go Railway Heavy. That's the one I ended up on. Now that I ended up on Railway Heavy, now I can go in and pick and deal with the size. Now you could go in and start choosing point sizes too. So right now it's 36 some odd points. If I wanted 48, I just choose 48 and I would give it to me. But I almost never do it that way unless I'm trying to spec type out to a specific size. Because that was a requirement, I always do it visually because then I know how big it is because I get to see it. So instead of me having to do it with the type tool, I'm going to go back and treat it like an object. I'm going to go back to the move tool and do a free transform. So to do a free transform, it is, I'm just looking for it on the menu because I never do it this way. It is image, I think it's image adjust, I don't know, I can't remember. No, free transform, where's free transform? Under the edit menu, edit free transform. I never do it this way, so that's why it took me a minute. I always do the command key. So command T or control T will give you free transform. So, and now of course that's going to be proportional by default. So I can make it nice and big just by grabbing a corner and making that the size that I want it. I don't want it to go all the way to the edge, but pretty close. All right, so maybe about that size. Now, let's go back to the ancient. So I'm going to switch to the ancient layer, and I'm going to move that layer down. Actually, I might move Egypt up. Hang on, let's switch it back. Let's move Egypt up a little bit. There we go. All right, now let's deal with ancient. So again, I picked this font earlier because I liked it for ancient, but let's just, again, give it a quick peruse of different fonts just to pick something different. Okay, I'll pick that nice Macho, even though Macho is kind of thin. So Macho Thin is what I'm going to end up with. And now the reason I did this as two separate words, as two separate layers, is because then I can move it around. I can position it exactly where I want it to be. I can also free transform it, make it a little smaller. I can play with it a lot more as a separate layer. If it were just ancient, hit return, type Egypt, then that would be all one text frame, one text box. Then I wouldn't be able to play with it as much. Okay, now there's one more thing, of course, and that's, do I want them to be white? Do I want them to be black? Do I want them to be whatever that default color is for you? For me, it was white because that's the last color, or not even white, it's kind of a pinkish blue. But whatever that color is, I don't want it to necessarily be that color. So you can change the color of the type as well, but I'm going to do something a little special for you guys. Something that's more Photoshop-like. Because, and by the way, let me arrow that up just a little bit. All right, so I just hit my arrow keys to move the word ancient up a bit. And if you are in doubt, you can always show your rulers, Command R, bring down a ruler guide so that they line up perfectly. All right, so I just got rid of the ruler guide. All right, now I'm gonna do something different to make the Egypt stand out. Now, by the way, so here's some text keyboard some text shortcuts for those of you going forward. If I wanted to edit the word Egypt and say something else, then I need to highlight it. So instead of me having to grab the type tool, select the type, just double clicking on the T for that layer highlights it. So now I can just start typing pyramids instead of Egypt or whatever. So that highlights it. All right, so I'm gonna escape out of that because the other tip, and this is one that's hidden, is I wanna select it like a mask. I wanna go in and create the shape of the letters as a selection. So to do that, I'm going to hold down my Command key on the Mac, and that would be PC Control key, and click one time. So now you see I get the marching ants around it. I get the selection of the letters, not the actual type. Because now that I have that, and by the way, I'm going to do that last. So I'm going to deselect, Command D. Before I do that step, I'm going to go to the background. I'm going to copy it. So Command A, that just puts a selection around the whole thing. Edit, copy, deselect, Command D, Command key and click on the word Egypt to select it. Make sure you're on the Egypt layer. So I selected the Egypt layer, held down the Command key or Control key on Windows and selected the word Egypt to get a mask or to get a selection. Now I'm going to do a special kind of paste. Because remember, we copied the whole pyramid. Now we're going to paste the pyramid, but we're going to paste it inside those letters. So we're going to do a paste special, paste into. So paste into means make a new layer with a mask with the word Egypt. And as you can see, it created that layer with just the word Egypt masking out the actual pyramid. Because now what I can do with the pyramid selected is I can use the move tool and I can move my copy pyramid into place. I can scale it, I can do whatever. So now I can get some more interesting looking type that is not just a color, it's the image. I can even free transform and scale it. I can do whatever I want to that image inside the type. So that can give you some more interesting looks to your type rather than just text. Now, there's nothing wrong with just text. I like text. But if you wanted to have something a little cooler, I'll give you something a little bit more fun to play with. All right. We can do this all day, but I'm running out of time. So next we're going to talk about exporting. So at this point, I've created multiple layers. I don't really need the word Egypt anymore, but I'm going to just turn that layer off. in case I do want to go back and make that a separate thing, because we're not showing this one anymore. We're showing the one on top. So this is the one we're actually showing. So I've turned off the Egypt layer. I have the background, the mask layer, and we can, by the way, rename that layer Egypt for those of you who are OCD and about the name, and then the word ancient. And again, you can make that whatever you want. So now that I have that, we're going to save it. In Photoshop, you could do your export to get this out. So you could do your, we did this before, you could export as a JPEG, or you could just simply export and save for web legacy. And you need it to be at least 1080, if not bigger, for the size. But that will give me an image that I can upload to Discord and to Behance. All right, ancient Egypt. All right, and we'll save that out. And if you save it and close it, when it saves, it will take you back over to, when you save it and switch back to Lightroom. Yep, I know I can't take that clipboard out of Photoshop, but it'll put it right next to the original. So this is why, again, I don't worry about making a duplicate, because Lightroom handles that for me. So here's the original with people, with the color, all that. And here's the one with a couple of people removed and the new type. So if I ever want to edit that again, if I were doing the Lightroom to Photoshop workflow, I'd just do a Command E, but this time it's going to ask me, do you want to edit the original? Yes, I do, because that's the one with the layers. So in this case, I don't want to make a copy. I do need to edit the original. So that takes me back to Photoshop, and then I can say, no, they want the layers on the other side. So I can hold down my Shift key. And let's grab all the layers. Hold down the Shift key, and then I can use the Move tool and move, oops. Hang on. There we go, let's link all that together. There we go, I can move it all over to the other side. Maybe move it here. All right, and again, save it, close it. You can't see the saving behind me, there's progress bar. Then I head back, and then it just updates the one in place inside of Lightroom. So I have my original still, and I have my layered PSD or TIFF file back inside of Lightroom to do whatever else I want to do with, including the Lightroom export, which would be export with a preset that we made on day one called 4DCC. Alrighty. So once you do that, then you'll do your upload. And once you upload it to Behance with the PS Daily Challenge hashtag, I'll be able to see it. You can also upload it to Discord. In the current challenge feedback area, and I'll see what you've done there for text as well. But great entry so far. Loving what you guys are doing. Can't wait to see what you do with text. And again, you don't have to do it on my image. If you've got an image you want to add text to, by all means, add text to your image as well. All right, so let's see, make sure I got like a few seconds left. Make sure I didn't forget anything. All right, cool. Yeah, I love the paste inside too, or paste into. Alrighty, all right. Looks like we are done until tomorrow. So thanks guys for joining me, and we will catch you tomorrow for the next one. Bye everybody, have a great one. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. Stay tuned, because there's more coming on Adobe Live, by the way. Bye everybody.